All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. Of course, I'm assuming so since there are about 200 people waiting and chat is active, so I don't have to check too much. We've got a lot to cover today. Lots of good news stories. Trump 2024, he is the front runner now for the general election. He's basically clinched the GOP's nomination again, short of shenanigans, which would be suicidal in the partisan sense. So we'll see if the Republicans once again manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I'm almost hoping that they try just for the drama, because it would be so goddamn funny to watch them basically punch themselves in the face while screeching autistically. So, you know, they're Republicans. You can't hope for anything better necessarily. We've got a ceasefire, which is kind of sort of working, but not 100%. And we're going to analyze all the weird stuff going on with regards to that, because there are cross demands from both sides. Number one, you've had some incursions and rocket strikes. Number two, and the other day, Israel claiming Hamas actually violated the ceasefire, but then saying that it could go on through Sunday, but Hamas has to release all the women and children. But then there was also an IDF incursion at one point. And so situation is about as expected, very, very tenuous. And I spoke about that the other day and actually a few days ago. We've got Alex Jones being offered a settlement. He owes $1.5 billion, an illegally large amount of money, by the way. This is definitely, it runs afoul of the Constitution as far as excessive punishment goes. But there's a settlement offer for $85 million. You know, pennies on the dollar. You only owe almost $100 million to these families now. They're willing to settle with you. So you go bankrupt completely and stay bankrupt for the rest of your lives and basically become our working slave. But at least you don't owe $1.5 billion. Hey, it's wonderful for things that definitely... we'll get into that. We'll get into my thoughts on Alex Jones and the case against him. We've got the Rhode Island ballot case with Donald Trump. He has prevailed there, just as he did in Colorado and Pennsylvania. He will be on the Rhode Island ballot. And also, we've got a big win in the nation of India. Some workers were tunneling around trying to create, I think, a road through the Himalayan or Himalayan mountains, depending on your local verbosity. And there was a cave-in, basically, and they were trapped. They managed to free them. So we've got good news from up there. Their plan worked, and it was looking like it was going to be some rough going there for a while. And then we have the RNC. Sees donations hit an 8-year low under feckless chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. I like how there are some people that are blaming Trump for this. TDS is far-reaching, you will note. We'll be talking about a bunch of juicy shit tomorrow, too. Actually, now let me pull up the docket. Got some ideas. You've got the debunking the myth of prehistoric female hunters. That may or may not have to be an exclusive for obvious reasons, because they're trying to astroturf the idea that women actually did most of the hunting in prehistoric times. Yeah, there are a number of biological reasons why we know that that's not true, mainly because humankind actually is still around and survived. Gunung Padang, actually, the pyramids there in Indonesia, not enough people are talking about that. I did have it on the docket before, but I think I bumped it. Actually, I had no choice. And we've got, speak of Rhode Island, we've got a BLM leader there actually endorsing Donald Trump. Yes, a member of BLM did endorse Donald Trump for the presidency. Conor McGregor being investigated for hate speech. And then we've got a bunch of other stuff. I don't know exactly which ones I can get to, since I typically do 4 videos standalone a day. I'll try to put the rest on the live docket tomorrow, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be able to get to. High Leaf 11. By the way, my camera looks a little bit on the fuzzy side. Come on. This will probably be the thumbnail. Yeah, come on. Now I'm even fuzzier. Oh, shit. Come on. There we go. It's like magic. You know, you just have to gesture in a wizardly manner. High Leaf 11, just remember that Trump was the first president to set foot in North Korea, and the media still tried to blame Trump somehow. Remember how other presidents talked to North Korea versus Trump. I covered that, by the way, this morning, that Donald Trump raising up and issuing a vague but pointed threat to North Korea in the wake of them threatening the United States was the right thing to do. But Western politicians typically are not going to understand that. They're used to the sort of sip a glass of wine, offer compliments way of diplomacy like you would find in France or Canada or something like that. And it doesn't work in the Eastern Bloc countries. It just doesn't. Anyway, we'll get right to the news here. Not only can Trump win, right now, he's the favorite to win. No shit, Sherlock, by the way. This is from RCP. So, you know, RCP tends to be towards the actually fair and balanced side because it's an aggregator mainly. But there are also articles that are posted natively on RCP. Those tend to be fairly balanced too. So you'll see like an apologism for Biden, and then you'll see an article like this talking about Trump and how he's probably going to have victory. At this time, if the election were held today, I would expect Donald Trump to win all of the swing states. Now, all of the swing states from the 2016-2020 period. He's running about 10 points ahead of where he was against Joe Biden in 2020. He's running significantly ahead of where he was in 2016 when he won against Hillary Clinton, about 6 points. There is an enormous swing towards Donald Trump. Now, there is a lot of uncertainty because there are more third-party candidates with name recognition than in past elections. That's true. The thing is, if Trump maintains any form of lead against Joe Biden going into the general, he's got it. He's clinched it. And he will be the nominee. Again, as I've analyzed before, there are only really three things that can stop him. Trump is dead, Trump is incapacitated, or Trump is prevented from being the nominee by the GOP itself in a brokered convention. In the third case, it would be political suicide. In the other cases, it leads to political uproar and tumult anyway, because Donald Trump is clearly liked by most of the Republican Party. He's riding above 60, which means that he's got now near a supermajority of Republican voters behind him. It doesn't matter if he comes in behind that in Iowa. I expect that he will. I expect that Donald Trump will lose 5 to 10 points on average against DeSantis specifically in Iowa. He will still win the state, but it'll be by an underwhelming margin. DeSantis fans will cheer at this and say, look, our guy's got the charisma. Our guy's got the stamina to do it. He's the only one. We'll kind of cheapen Nikki Haley, who just got the Koch endorsement, actually. The DeSantis fans really flubbed the messaging on that one, though, because they immediately got TDS instead of pointing out, hey, do you really want the Koch brothers candidate? I don't think so, because it's not the same GOP that it was in 2012. They really screwed up with that one. They could have gotten a victory, but they did the typical Republican thing where they stashed defeat from the jaws of victory, and it was predictable that that would happen too. You can go on through this, link in the description, archived, of course, talking about Trump running so far ahead of where he was before. He hasn't led by this amount before, which is it's 2.3 now as of new polling, but it was 2.6. He's getting up into the upper 40s. There's really not a lot of breathing room for Biden to be able to recoup unless the economy magically gets better or unless the border crisis is solved. Can I please ask anyone in the audience at the moment, do you think that Joe Biden wants to or can solve the border crisis? And as far as the economy, every time things go bad, we're told that it's completely out of his hands. So I don't know exactly what they expect him to do. I would expect that Trump has a much better than 50-50 chance of being reelected as the president. He could easily do this from a jail cell. I think that he would definitely, if they give him house arrest at Mar-a-Lago, which under the circumstances might be their only option, I think that if he runs a digital campaign, he wins. I think there'd be a 75-80% chance of that happening. Joe Biden is monumentally disliked, and Donald Trump has a very, very rabid core fan base, which appears to have grown in the last years. It doesn't appear to have shrunk. It's larger now. It's more powerful now. I think that in the end, another problem is this. Joe Biden is not doing well with young voters because Joe Biden decided to piss off that core Gen Z voting demographic by offering the student loan panacea and then giving absolutely nothing to the youth. In the end, his student loan debt grift, in the end, what he was able to pass only applies to older individuals, people who are over 35 effectively, because of the standard involved where you have to have made the payments on a consistent basis, missing at most one or two of them for over a decade. Well, the problem is that somebody who's 24 has not been making student loan payments for that long. And so that basically, that gets you some Gen X voters. A handful of the older millennials might qualify. That's basically what you're looking at. And so I think people will be surprised at what happens in this current election. I'll probably be surprised too. Anything can and does happen within U.S. politics, generally speaking. This election is totally off the chain. We've got so many unknown quantities going forward. We've got Donald Trump being under indictment, the possibility that he's found guilty, the possibility he's in a jail cell, the possibility he's under house arrest. They might just fine him, but, whatever. Joe Biden is old and feeble. He could croak, leaving a power vacuum within the Dem Party. Again, Trump wins against Newsom in most of the matchup polling, too. So the idea that they're going to swap Biden out at the last moment to save the party, they can try. They'd probably get closer, but I would still favor Trump to win, actually. I would still assume that Donald Trump would have an advantage. Doesn't mean that he wins, but he has the advantage. Even when you match up against 2016 polling, in which Trump won the election. He was running 2.5 behind Hillary in the final matchup and 4.5 behind in the final round of polling. And he still managed to win. If he can do that, then if he's 2-3 points ahead, it should be a piece of cake, effectively. And so my hope is that Donald Trump is reelected. It'd be good for our country to have the ultimate redemption arc moment where Donald Trump is reelected, having been out for a term. He goes Grover Cleveland mode. The whole system is dogpiling him, and then he's reelected. I think that'd be a good thing. I think it would re-energize the country, and we'd have sound diplomacy again for another 4 years. Well, you can't go wrong with that. What he really needs to watch out for is who he chooses to be his running mate. Right now, the DeSantis fans are claiming that Nikki Haley is going to be the one he chooses. I am pretty doubtful about that. I don't think that he would get along with a former employee that decided to stab him in the back. It would not be his forte to choose that person as running mate. Nonetheless, we're being assured that that's what she's being handed with the Coke endorsement. So everyone's talking about Gen X in the comments section there. Relax with the Gen X stuff, man. So yeah, I will be voting for Trump in 2012. He is the front runner, both well within the primaries and to an extent within the general election. If he is the nominee, I believe that he can actually win. I don't think there are enough ballot printers to overcome it either. There's too much momentum. I'd see a lot of black pillars saying it's impossible, but I don't really have any concrete reason to believe their claims. And also, this is the Vomit Out the Black Pill channel, so. Billy, good morning, Sticks. Why is Jackson Hinkle, a.k.a. Marxist-Leninist, posting spent casings and machine gun links, then passing it to his audience as live bullets? Because he's trying to get attention. He's a good capitalist. His entire model is to get a bunch of attention by spewing off the wall shit, and then people interact with the material, and you get money for it. He's got no reason to not be disingenuous. So, I mean, I wish him well on his capitalistic adventure. Gamer J007, the Kochs are the Uniparty. They interfered in a recall we initiated in Colorado in 2018, snatching defeat from the jaws of our guaranteed victory. I'm convinced they did that intentionally. Probably did. Richard Z. Thank you so much for all you do. If you're still looking for a good revolver, I recommend a Smith & Wesson R8. 8 shots of .357 Magnum ain't bad, and it feels great. Sounds like a cool gun. 357's nice. Nothing wrong with that. Next news story, the ceasefire agreement with regards to the Gaza Strip. It's being adhered to, kind of, sort of. We've got numerous problems with the current ceasefire agreement with regards to the war between Israel and Hamas. You've had Hamas launch several rocket attacks in the last 48 hours. Israel explicitly came out and said that that was a breach of the ceasefire agreement, but they didn't take any further action beyond that, as far as like dissolving the ceasefire or something, going back to mass bombing. They did conduct airstrikes. The IDF did raid one of those communities as well, which also is a breach of the ceasefire agreement. They're not supposed to do that. Hamas has a number of women and children still as hostages, and Israel is now making the extension of that not truce, but ceasefire. It's not a long-term end solution. Requisite on all of the women and children being sent back by Sunday. So they're saying, okay, basically, you've got until Sunday to give us the women and children. Otherwise, we're going to go back to war. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out because it's so tenuous. One of the problems is that a third-party group that wants to see the fighting continue can always false flag. They can get a couple of bottle rockets and fire them off from Gaza. It's not that hard. They can pass false intel off to the IDF. Hey, here's a real juicy kill for you. You should probably fucking take the shot. And then the IDF does, and then Hamas complains and decides that the ceasefire is over. We could see any of a number of things happen with regards to the situation. My thought is that because Western leadership, specifically in the United States, is very, very weak, is incapable of dealing with the situation, so that it's basically just Israel and Hamas doing this. It's not really involving the U.S. in the most direct sense. I know Blinken will talk to people. I know that Biden will talk it up and say, well, the U.S. is involved, man. We're an interested party. That's fine. The problem is that Hamas doesn't give a shit. And I don't think the Israelis give much of a shit either at this point because, you're not getting any solutions. It took 3 days to get any of the U.S. hostages back. We just barely got back the rest of them. They should have been front-ended. Joe Biden really screwed the pooch with regards to the deal in the first place by not making sure that instead of a bunch of Thai nationals, as far as the United States representing the situation supposedly was concerned, the U.S. nationals should have been back first. But they weren't. The other day, you had some 4 or 5-year-old little girl. She was returned. A couple more today, actually, I think are on the docket. And we'll see if that actually happens because everything's up in the air. But Biden clearly doesn't know what he's doing. In the absence of strong Western leadership over a nation that is effectively a sphered state, you have that state negotiating on its own. Clearly, Netanyahu does not want to let the Israeli public down by letting off pressure. And so the ceasefire could be broken at any time because both sides have a reason to want to launch the next salvo. My hope is that it holds. My hope is that the hostages are released, the fighting more or less ceases. Hopefully Gaza has running water at some point in the indefinite future, and that people leave each other alone. But I'm hoping in vain. And I know that I'm hoping in vain. This is one thing to be blackpilled about, the idea of peace in the Levant region, unless it's taken over by a third party, like the United States decides, you know what, Judea is just going to be the 51st state. We're taking over all of what was Israel and Palestine and administering it ourselves as a territory because there's no other choice involved. Otherwise, people are just going to massacre one another over and over, and we're tired of it. We're tired of pouring money into the region, so it's ours now. And so we're going to be a net olive exporter for the first time. Yay! Also, that natural gas off Gaza happens to be ours as well, so fuck off. You could do worse. I mean, it would bring relative peace to the region. There's a whole lot of juicy exports within there, plenty of tourism. God, imagine U.S. citizens imagine all of the Christians that would travel to Israel if they didn't have to even use a passport because it was a territory like a Puerto Rico or something like that. Why not? It wouldn't be as much fighting. Oh, we could root out Hamas because it would be domestic territory then. It would just be a police sweep at that point. I'm sure that we could mobilize people and do pretty well. Anyway, I don't think that there's going to be lasting peace in that region for a very, very long time, which is sad. I wish differently from that, but we have to be pragmatic. We have to look at the reality of the situation. And the reality on the ground there is different from sort of the pie in the sky mentality we get from a lot of political talking heads. Like, well, we can have a 2-state solution. Wouldn't that solve the problem? No, it wouldn't. It'd be 2 states perpetually locked in combat, probably. That's the whole problem. The whole problem is that you have the semi-autonomous Palestinian Authority constantly grinding gears with the Israelis and vice versa, and it never really fully lets up. It's basically you don't have peace, you have a seeming calm at best. The Joker, Trump 2012, sticks 2023. No, it's Trump 2024. Tom McGrory sent $1. No comment. Thank you very much. Not a bad account. Why not do a humanitarian migration of the population of Palestine to North America? Canada and America need cultural enrichment. Yeah, no thanks. I think that'd be a bad idea. If we take over the region, though, that could work, as long as it belongs to us. Lance the Lion. Should employers be allowed to disallow the legal use of weed while not on the clock? I do not believe they should hold this power. No. If marijuana is legal in a state, then an employer should not be able to terminate an employee for getting high off the job. If they're high on the job, it'd be the same as if they drink beer on the job or something like that. They show up to work wasted, in other words. Then they can get shit canned. I'm a song. Happy belated channelversary, but my channel's still older, you young whippersnapper. Also, RIP Botany 101. Yeah, those were the days. Yuki of Sakudo. I started watching you last year. Your push to better yourself I took to heart. Started the year 398 pounds. Today I'm at 320 pounds. Thanks and clank. Keep going. You can get it even lower than that. Good on you. It must feel a lot better too. Like when you go from, not insulting you or something, but like a really high weight to a high weight, but it's a lot less. I mean, you've basically shed, a small-sized person's worth of weight. I don't know how you managed to do that. It must be a lot of diet and exercise, but if you keep up that good work, eventually you'll be slim. Get skinny. Or just get normal. Yeah, something like that. Not everyone needs to be a stick insect like me. Anorexic looking, like Eugenia Cooney mode. Let's see. Sigil Stone, got a story tip. Cox Media Group news stations across multiple states investigated Social Security overpayments and exposed tons of families to be fucked by the government, and they're proud of it. Huh. That's interesting. If you can link me in DM, I might be able to talk about that tomorrow. Actually, Cox Media, or I spelled that wrong. Derp. Overpayments. Oh, that's from late September though. That's an older news story. I'll take a look at that. I'll keep that open on the side and see if I need to talk about that. Mark Guidetti, why are you so focused on forcing a ceasefire on Israel, yet are silent on Turks and Azeri Muslims killing 110,000 Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh and silent on Arab Janjaweed murdering 150,000 Sudanese Christians? I've actually talked about both of them if you go back through the video list. As far as the Janjaweed rebels, that's been an issue since the 2000s. I don't think there's anything we can do because the international community doesn't want to fucking do anything about it. We set up refugee camps with UN soldiers that aren't even allowed to pull the trigger, and that's basically their answer to it. As far as Armenia and Azerbaijan and so forth, that's sort of in the Russian sphere zone. There's not as much we can do about it. Because if the US were to show up on the doorstep of Russia right now, I think that would cause more problems than you would solve. Not a banned account. Why are the feds so strongly opposed to pot? Because if people can smoke pot, they might not drink. And, liquor is a big industry in the United States. President Irina Vladimirovna Putin. Recently, another game dev was attacked to the point of shutting down their social media by the Twitterati Stasi. Do you see any solution to the left deciding what is allowed on the web? Supporting free speech. But I'll get called naive for saying so. I don't support turning their own methodology against them because the thing is, like, nobody can wield the ring of Sauron but Sauron. And so you'll just corrupt yourself. You become as authoritarian as them. And then, I'm not going to stand with a moralistic right wing. I'm not going to be able to stand with it because likewise, they would be trying to gun for me. So, I'm fucked in either case. I support classical liberalism. Play it so fast. Morning glory seeds is a joke. Never actually eat them. It is not a joke. It is an entheogen. Yes, heavenly blue morning glory seeds will get you high if you use them. If you do it properly and in the proper dose. Disclaimer, I'm not recommending that you use this substance because it's quasi sort of illegal, kind of depends. You shouldn't operate heavy machinery when you're high on psychedelics. I've used morning glory before. I did get high. I personally found it very, very enjoyable. Most people consider it a dirty high, so to speak, and they don't really enjoy it. I don't know. Other than the fact that you get nauseous and you get vasoconstriction, which can cause your muscles to sort of tense up, and that's sort of not necessarily fun. And if you have any heart or kidney problems, definitely don't use Morning Glory, even extracted. You can extract in distilled water or into certain liquors, or you can do what I did and take a pepper grinder, pop a bunch of seeds in it, grind them up into a powder, and then mix it with applesauce so that you don't notice the terrible taste so much. By the way, don't use a used pepper grinder or else the smell of black pepper will forever haunt you. Adam Walker. I sent you some AI art for the Netflix adaptation of the Stick story via DM on Twitter. Yeah, I think I saw that. I liked it. I'll have to bump it up. Send me another message so that it's at the top in my requested so that I can see those again. President Irina Vladimirovna Putin. Counterpoint. The ring was able to be held by those who had no desire to use it. I appoint Sticks to be the decider of what speech is allowed. Yeah, but I wouldn't take that power up because I wouldn't be interested in doing so. If I was handed dictatorial power, I guess I would just say, fuck everything. And then, I'd be like more like Bombadil and just end up losing the ring anyway. So then Sauron would probably grab it back. It'd be a problem. Next news story. Sandy Hook families offer to settle Alex Jones' $1.5 billion legal debt, but they assailed Alex Jones for obfuscation and extravagance. Yes, Alex Jones is not allowed to air his opinions or anything like that without being extravagant. Well, how do you think he became successful? By being boring? By acting like a fucking normie? I don't think that's how. You can't get blood from a turnip, by the way. You've bankrupted the dude. Sandy Hook families who won nearly $1.5 billion in legal judgments against conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, by the way, some of them in time being borne out as not having really been conspiracies at all, but being very true, for calling the, actually that part I can't even read out on YouTube, for talking about a certain hoax that he claimed to happen, have offered to settle the debt for only pennies on the dollar, at least $85 million over 10 years. Now, Alex Jones makes a good deal of money. He'd make a lot more if he actually were allowed to use, by the way, mainline platforms. I don't think that he can pay $8.5 million a year. I don't think that he's making that much money at this point. Maybe before, maybe when InfoWars was allowed to have a YouTube channel and everything like that, and like merch store and shit like that. Yeah, probably. He probably made more than that. Now it would be considerably less. So even their settlement proposal is bullshit. Here's what I would say, and I said it before, and some of you won't actually like what I'm about to say. Alex Jones was not found guilty of defaming the dead. That's not why he was ordered into the settlement. He was found guilty of defaming the living relatives of the people that were killed at Sandy Hook. It was justified that he was found guilty of having done so and that the families prevailed in a civil trial. But $1.5 billion is such an onerous and lunatic amount that could never possibly be paid off by a person, even if they make 7, maybe even 8 figures, that it was a laughingstock. This was an attempt to silence and retroactively punish Alex Jones through an onerous legal system in a situation that should never constitutionally have even happened. It should never be possible for a person to have to pay a million times more than they can possibly earn under the circumstances, no matter how much you think that what they say is abhorrent or whatever you happen to think. And certainly what he said about the families is defamatory. They were able to prove that. It's not even up in the air. Of course it was defamation. He made an objective claim that the families themselves were lying and that they were like federal agents and stuff. They could prove that that wasn't the case. But that is bullshit. 1.5 billion? Yeah, he's really going to be able to pay that. He can't pay the $85 billion settlement. It's impossible. I mean, $85 million settlement. It's not possible. If the settlement were in the 7-figure range over 10 years, then he'd probably be able to pay it off. But then again, they've also screwed him by removing him from every mainline visible platform for absolutely no reason. The fact that somebody can say something that is not true, end up in a civil trial, and be instantaneously silenced, even before the trial culminates, by the way, is ludicrous. Nobody should be removed from that sort of platform anyway until they've actually been found guilty of a crime. This was a civil case. Well, if the families want the money, you've got to actually allow the man to make it. but they've prevented him from doing that. What I would say is that in this particular case, they should just scrap the whole thing. They should say, okay, Alex Jones is guilty. The settlement, he has to pay each family $100 or something like that. Basically a slap on the wrist. Because the fact that defamation was shown to exist, the fact that the case went forward, it went against Jones, does not mean that he needs to owe over $1 billion. It's completely ludicrous. But he did defame them, to be clear. And no, it does not matter, by the way, Douglas Dauntless, whether he said or did not say their names, because he referred to the parents specifically of the slain, therefore implicating individuals who can prove in a discrete manner they're the ones being referred to. But that doesn't mean that Alex Jones should have his constitutional rights completely violated by having this kind of judgment. And the settlement is a goddamn joke. There's no way he's going to make $85 million total, let alone be able to pay $85 million when he's not even allowed to use most social media. Maybe 8.5 million he could swing. Even that would probably be difficult at this point. Alex Jones says some zany shit, but that doesn't mean that he needs to have his entire life ruined. And I mean, $85 million, Jesus Christ. CC 1980, Alex Jones was railroaded and he did apologize to the families involved long before the kangaroo court BS, or so he has stated on Crowder. Yes, that's true. Now, here's the problem. And I say this as someone who doesn't like legalese and lawfare and things like this. He did provably defame them. You can't do that and then apologize and still expect, well, I apologize, so clearly no case can be waged against me. That's not the way that law works. If anything, defamation in some cases is too hard to prove. If you can't prove that some negative action was taken against you or is inevitably going to be taken against you as the result of someone's patently false, even outright malicious, and I don't think that Alex Jones is being malicious. I don't think he was targeting these people in a malicious manner. But even if you can prove malice, you can say, oh, look, here's this person's DMs. They're planning to defame me and they defamed me. You still have to prove damages to even have a case. If anything, defamation can be too hard to prove in a court of law, generally speaking. Content creators are routinely subjected to defamation. I know that I am. But in Alex Jones' case, the real problem is that the settlement makes no sense. It's onerous. The original result was even more onerous, $1.5 billion. That makes a whole lot of sense. No, you should have taken at least a couple of zeros off that to begin with the original case, and then you settle from there for an even much lower amount. Nobody gets that kind of money in defamation cases. People who are legit defamed to the point where they got a target on their back and shit like that, like a Nick Sandman, they don't get that kind of money. So I don't understand the case against Alex Jones. He was railroaded, especially in the settlement total. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings, Sparky. White Rat, they didn't want the money. They wanted to destroy Alex Jones. Well, I think that the families want the money at this point, which is why they're trying to extract it via the settlement. I don't know that they're going to be able to get it, though. I mean, I don't think Alex Jones has the ability to pay that much money. It's sort of like, a person can be guilty of a crime or something like that, but that doesn't mean you want excessive punishment. It's like you don't fine somebody $10,000 for jaywalking. You don't give a person 10 years in prison for having 2 grams of weed in their baggie or something like that. Typically, there's some sort of balance involved, unless the person is a political dissident. Then they get the book thrown at them, which is exactly what happened to Alex Jones. So I support Jones in this particular legal struggle. Not because he didn't defame people, not because there shouldn't be a settlement against him, but because the amount is onerous, the process was not entirely fair, as you may have noticed, and the fact that they only gunned for him on that level because of his political status. That's my point. Sigil Stone. Jones technically wasn't found to be defaming. The judge basically forbade him from mounting a defense because he's just so evil, and how dare he defend himself and entered a default judgment. Kinda, sorta. I can probably parse this apart in a future video. But, yeah, Alex Jones got a raw deal on that one, and it is unacceptable. Nobody should ever be found to be liable for $1.5 billion. The judge in that case is a laughingstock for having even entered that particular judgment. I don't think they're going to get their settlement. Next news story. Judge dismisses Rhode Island Trump ballot case. Yes, 3 for 3. Donald Trump has won all of the cases so far with regards to ballot access. Colorado, Pennsylvania, now Rhode Island. I think there's a couple others ongoing. What's happening right now is that the liberals are attempting to keep him off the ballot by forcing a SCOTUS case. Either that or undermining SCOTUS in the process. They're hoping that would be their second place victory. They're hoping to have their cake and eat it too, by the way. Let me explain. They know that it is vastly unlikely in any court of law that they're going to succeed in any state with a case that tries to keep Trump off of the ballot because he did not engage in insurrection. It is self-evident. It is legally objective. He was never found guilty of such a crime. Therefore, the Insurrection Act in his case doesn't apply. Even if it could apply, because it's not clear from the wording that it can apply to a chief executive, number one, and it's not clear that it applies to anything after the Reconstruction period anyway, number two. So even if you cross those two hurdles, Donald Trump hasn't been found guilty of insurrection. Therefore, the cases are doomed. What they're hoping is that one of the cases somehow inexplicably makes it through. They're throwing lumps of shit at the wall and hoping one of them sticks. That forces SCOTUS to do one of three things. Injunct the concept, which means that Trump has ballot access. They could do it in a limited decision, I suppose, which brings the ire of the liberals, which helps with turnout. SCOTUS is letting an insurrectionist run for this office. We must do something, because if Trump gets in there, he'll stack the court further. Oh my God, it'll be Armageddon, World War III, cats and dogs living together. That's one possibility. Or they take up the case fully, and they wipe out the concept that a person can be blocked from office without a guilty verdict. Again, you get the same result. Or they say, okay, yeah, we'll allow it. Donald Trump is not allowed to run for office. They're not expecting that. What they're expecting is that SCOTUS potentially is forced to take up the case, blocks it, and then it makes SCOTUS look like it's being activistic because 3 of the justices were appointed by the person that they're defending. Clearly, they want more insurrections. That's basically their goal, political chaos. The problem for them is that if they lose in a place like Rhode Island or Colorado, where they had, by the way, a Dem judge, a Biden-donating, TDS-suffering judge, and they still can't get the case through, they probably are falling on deaf ears at the moment. I don't expect that in any of these cases they'll prevail. I expect Trump will have 50 state ballot access, that they will fail, that SCOTUS won't have to take up the case, and they don't want to. And they don't need to, because you're unlikely to have one of these cases actually go against the Trump campaign, which I think is thankful. Doc Holliday, not fair. He wasn't allowed to defend himself. Yeah, I mean, Alex Jones was absolutely mistreated at trial. And there should have been a mistrial, of course. I don't disagree with you on this. People are preaching to the choir right now in the comments section. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the verdict did go through. It's still legally binding, even if we agree that there should have been a mistrial. That's not the way the legal system works. Me proclaiming self-professedly that the case was problematic and shouldn't have gone forward because of the activities of the judge and so forth doesn't mean anything, because I'm not pertinent to that case. I don't have the legal authority to unilaterally countermand what they did. SCOTUS could have, somebody else could have, but I can't do that. I agree with you, but it's still legally binding. Insofar, though, as it's legally binding, the biggest problem is the massively overinflated amount that they found him liable for. It boggles the mind. $1.5 billion. It's fucking horseshit is what it is. Chad Scott, what happened to the 8th Amendment? All of the amendments are under threat, especially the first one at the moment. Although arguably the 4th Amendment is now just as embattled. Matthew Hammond, did you see that young NFL Chiefs fan that was said on Deadspin to be displaying blackface by wearing face paint of the team colors as part of the Chumash tribe, and his dad sits on the tribe's board? Yes, I will possibly be talking about that tomorrow, but I had other things that I was more interested in. Plus, everyone else is already going to be doing reporting on that anyway. Yes, a kid supposedly was seen in blackface at the Chiefs game. but it wasn't blackface. And he's part Native American. And the Deadspin article writer eventually deleted his tweets because he realized he's probably going to get sued, ironically enough, for what we just discussed, which is defamation, because the kid weren't wearing blackface. I think that family is going to get a good settlement. And they actually, that's the problem. They have proved damages or something. He's bullied at school or something in order to get their settlement. Drag him. Absolutely drag him. Ashley, Alex lost the case of defamation, but the parents lost the side of the people. They could have won the case and settled for an Alex apology tour and $1, but no. No, I have no problem with them, getting a defamation payout, but it's an onerous amount. And the trial should have ended in a mistrial. I do not disagree with the people currently pretending that I'm a shill for the anti-Alex Jones crowd in the comments section. I actually went on Alex Jones' show once. Enjoyed myself very much, by the way. I think he's a fun guy. I've watched his show before. Sparky, what damage did the family suffer? Hurt feelings, bogus threats, death threats. That's how they were able to prove the defamation case. They were able to establish that. Stormblood20, what do you think of all the economic experts talking about another great financial crisis? Real or just hot air? Clank clankety. Probably real, unfortunately. So hold on to your butt. Ozzy's Robots. Did you see Michael Schellenberger's Siddle files on X? I did see that mentioned. I didn't get time to go through with it. Just a second here. Oh, I lost my place over on Rumble. Derp. We do have King of Biltong. Good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping on your Biltong using code STICKS on www.landofbiltong.com and www.antonsusa.com. Thanks to Robert, Dan, and Yeon for visiting us yesterday. Hashtag Clank Nation. You've got to have had 20, 30 clankers come through there for meat. You're going to run out of the bison. I personally endorse the bison as being my favorite. Although the Wagyu, the Japanese Wagyu is exquisite, and the intensity of the flavor is really high. I just have a soft spot for buffalo. I just really like buffalo meat. I've had buffalo burgers, now buffalo biltong, of course, jerky, which is also good. Buffalo steaks, buffalo roast, actually, in stew is really good. Swamp Donkey. 2024 election prediction now that the leftists are losing that keep him off the ballot option. Yeah, they're trying to attempt to keep him off the ballot in numerous states, but they've lost every case. I think that they'll keep losing, which is why they're mainly focusing on the lawfare against Donald Trump with regards to the Jack Smith case and Letitia James and all these morons. 100 a steak for that Japanese stuff. Yeah, it's on the upper end, but I mean, you are paying for a really, really good flavor. Again, endorsed. But I personally, of all of them that I tried, I think the bison the best. Although the one with the pork, I can't remember what it was called. That was really good as well. Yeah, biltong from Anton's. Which is better, bison or buffalo? I think they're effectively interchangeable terms because I think that the U.S. bison herd, a buffalo herd is mainly bison, if I remember correctly. Are there any pure-blooded buffalo left, actually? And by the way, bison have some health benefits beyond cows. There's some there was some disease that I read about. I was looking up actually the history of buffalo some months ago. Some disease that is pestilent among cows that bison can't get or something like that. Doc Holliday, thanks for your straightforward, no-nonsense approach. Never any clickbait sensationalism, thumbnails, or captions, just like just about everyone else. Thank you. Pure-blooded buffalo. Beefalo. Bison or not buffaloes. I don't know. The terms get mixed up. I don't really give a shit. I like bison or buffalo or whatever you call it. It's tasty. Eat the death meat. Eat their dead flesh. It's nice and sweet and savory. I don't care. By the way, no fat, no good. No, buffalo manages to be as good as a good cut of beef while having a low fat content. That's one of the advantages to it. No, in North America, bison and buffalo are the same thing. Stop being stupid. Thank you. Thank you to Tuger. Next news story. We've got uplifting news now. I know sometimes people get a little bit black-pilled, but this is a nice heartwarming story. Rescuers successfully drill through to men in Himalayan tunnel in breakthrough for perilous operation. New Delhi in India. Rescuers on Tuesday successfully drilled through to 41 men trapped inside a collapsed Himalayan tunnel in a weeks-long evacuation effort fraught with uncertainty enters its final stretch. Yes, they have been now rescued. They were tunneling in the mountains, trying to build a tunnel, and they got blocked by, I believe, about 200 feet of broken rock, concrete, and twisted metal. That's problematic. And then their machines broke down and couldn't deal with the situation, so they were removing debris by hand. They still managed to get them out. They were drilling, by the way, a vertical shaft on the other side to try to get them out because they weren't. It wasn't clear that they were going to be able to break through the actual collapsed tunnel debris without maybe collapsing it further, which would be a problem. I'm assuming they're probably going to abandon this particular tunnel and maybe build one a little distance away that is in a more stable area. Like, it probably shouldn't have happened. I know that collapses and cave-ins happen anyway, but when you're underneath a mountain, you've got to be careful. This is not Moria that we're talking about. And they managed to actually get a pipe into them some time ago, and they were sending in oxygen and food and water and shit like that. And I guess these guys were playing around on their phones much of that several weeks worth of time. Like, I don't know, I guess maybe they put a cord down there to charge their batteries or something, or maybe they just said, today is Tom's turn. He uses his phone, and then it's Harold's turn the next day. And then something like that. I'm happy about this, though, because, I mean, these dudes could have been crushed to death. That would be pretty bad. Then they have to fucking excavate it anyway to get their dead bodies out, and that wouldn't be nice for anyone. And the breakthrough follows a series of agonizing setbacks during which rescue efforts were halted when the heavy machinery used to drill through the debris broke down, forcing workers to partially dig by hand and adopt other riskier methods to bring them to safety. Good thing they didn't bring the blasting powder. Engineers had previously attempted to excavate the debris in the exit shaft using heavy machinery, but were forced to abandon efforts late on Friday after the powerful U.S.-made drill they were using broke down just meters from the trapped men, and they managed to break through thereafter. So congratulations to the people of India on a success there. And I wanted to focus. I'm a little bit claustrophobic. So when I hear about like the concept of being like caved in and trapped in a pitch black tunnel by 200 feet of debris, and you're like, oh shit, I might die in here. We're going to run out of oxygen eventually. So everyone practice your meditation skills immediately. And I hope you're all Hinduistic here. It's actually kind of terrifying. Like, not the dark or anything. And I guess they weren't, they're not trapped in a crawl space, thankfully. They were able to stand up and stuff. So that was, I guess, the saving grace. I don't know. After a while, though, you'd go crazy. And they were down there for several weeks. So they're lucky that they were able to insert that pipe and get air to them, or else they would just be extracting corpses at the moment. I thought it was an interesting news article, though. I actually was following that for some days. Let's see. Oh, I already read that one. Let me see here. Palpatine. I'm the type of guy to bang liver with jumper cable. Scarfy the Strange. Let's fill out the fellowship. Styx will be Gandalf. Razor will be Aragorn the Ranger, and that's all I got for now. Yeah, we'll need a Legolas and shit like that. Reformed Sauron. I can see it now. Headline: Nikki Haley takes cock. Definitely does. Aussie's Robots. CTIL files confirm what we already knew about government and military colluded after 2016 elections and Brexit to control the narrative and promote authoritarianism. Yes, if I can get a link via DM on Twitter to a good news article on that, I'll throw that in the docket for tomorrow. Iggy Rules 420. Indiana has a wild bison population. It's actually right outside Chicago. They're on a preserve but eat and breed freely. I'm surprised that the Chicago gangsters haven't decided, hey, if we wrestle a couple of these guys and cut them up, they're worth a lot of money to the hipsters. So, yeah, fuck selling drugs. We're going to become butchers now. Yeehaw. Let's see. Ronin 361. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. Swamp Donkey. We clank in the direction of Roanoke, Texas. Pilgrimage to Anton's is required, inshallah. Also, yes, there are a few pure-blooded buffalo, but not many. Sub 4K left, but it's a growing number. Now, hopefully not terribly inbred or something like that. Probably are. Probably about like the population of Hinsdale, New Hampshire. My dad used to make jokes about that. People do look a little bit bizarre there. I'm not going to lie. Sparky, what we call a buffalo in the U.S. is called a bison in the rest of the world. It began as a misnomer, but now is accepted. Okay, so that explains it. And the final news story here. RNC sees donations hit an 8-year low under feckless chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. And also possibly the fact that MAGA doesn't want to donate to the RNC and would rather directly give their money to Donald Trump because the RNC has done absolutely butt-fuck nothing to support MAGA. Donations to the feckless Republican Party, I like that word, reached an 8-year low under Ronna McDaniel, according to the Washington Post. I realize, by the way, before anyone bothers to bring it up, yes, Donald Trump endorsed her. That's because she was inevitable anyway, and he wanted to extend an olive branch. You don't have to like it, but that's political reality. The GOP raised its lowest amount since President Trump arose as leader of the party. So it's not his fault. They raised more before. Why is it lower now? It could be that McDaniel has shown a complete lack of concern in confronting widespread voter fraud by the left and has spent more time attacking popular Republican candidates. Also, that the RNC is not particularly interested in actually soliciting donations or doing anything at the moment. They're basically in a holding pattern. They're just sort of standing there frozen like a deer in the headlights. Under Ronna McDaniel, $1 to the RNC is $1 wasted. Yeah. Why would I donate to the RNC? If the RNC gets the money, they're going to spend most of it on, I don't know, re-electing some Romney or somebody like that. They're not going to give it to a candidate I'd actually support in the first place. Why wouldn't I just give the money to the candidate? At least I know it's going to their campaign. Donations to the Republican National Committee have hit an 8-year low, sources told the WAPO on Monday. The diminished donations raise concerns about whether or not RNC leadership is properly aligned with the party's grassroots to counter an unpopular Democrat president seeking re-election. Pro tip, they're not aligned with them. That is the problem. 10 people familiar with the matter told the Post that big donors and small donors are not giving as much money to the RNC as they have in the past. They raised the lowest amount of money since President Trump arose as the leader of the GOP. They disclosed that it had $9.1 million in cash on hand as of October 30th, the lowest amount for the RNC in any FEC report since February 2015. That compares with about $20 million at the same point in the 2016 election cycle and $61 million 4 years ago when Trump was in the White House. It's almost like when you alienate your own presumptive nominee and their supporters, and you don't do fundraising, and you don't knock on doors, and in fact, you don't literally do anything at all. It's almost like people aren't going to donate to you. They probably don't even know they can donate. They don't even know the RNC exists, and if they do, they fucking hate it. Well, I hate them too. The leadership of the Republican Party are a bunch of morons for the most part. Look at who leads the party, other than Trump, the presumptive nominee, technical standard bearer of the party. Who are some of the main figures in the party? Mitch McConnell? Mitch McConnell was too busy throwing millions of dollars to Lisa Murkowski to fend off a GOP opponent in the general election when it was GOP versus GOP. So quite clearly, he's not the money man. Kevin McCarthy, the first House Speaker to be ousted in the manner that he was because he couldn't even secure the support of his own party loyals because he was so goddamn terrible. Okay, clearly not that. Ronna McDaniel, who goes on TV and humiliates herself repeatedly. Yeah, I wonder why there'd be a problem with fundraising here. Meanwhile, Donald Trump doesn't need technically that much fundraising at all because he's loaded. Of course, he's going to be less loaded after they continue to crucify him legally. No, you have fundraising issues. People don't want to give to your political party. Well, your political party sucks. Democrats have a reason to donate. They actually support the insanity, and the Democrats will follow through and do insane things. With the GOP, they'll make you promises that they break, or they'll do nothing and shuffle around in a shiftless manner like a Ronna McDaniel, or they're a bunch of rhino war cons that are single-mindedly right now fixated on wanting to bomb people. So, yeah, other than the MAGA wing, why the fuck would you want to donate to the RNC? I'm not going to give the Republican Party a goddamn penny. I'd be willing to donate to an individual candidate. I'd be willing to donate to an individual cause if it were clearly marked, or a PAC that had a slew of candidates that I particularly supported, but I wouldn't give it to the party at large because they're going to squander it on apparently safe races they can't lose like they did in 2020, or they're going to squander it on candidates that fucking suck ass and then deprive money from candidates that are actually worth voting for. Claudius 1964. By the way, please send no more super chats. We're running up on an hour. Good morning, Sticks. I can't talk to my sister about Trump. Every time I bring up the subject, she has to run to the bathroom. Interesting. To puke or to whack off. Sigil Stone. What they're not telling you is the trap men weren't miners, but were sent to reclaim Khazad-dûm from the orcs, but were trapped when the orcs took the bridge in the West Hall. Drums in the deep. Mark of reality. There are two Republican parties, the Uniparty Republicans, which is also the Democrat Uniparty, and the Populist Republicans, but they each need a better name. How about the Populist Party and the Democratic Republicans? You could do that. Wasted Bonehead. Good morning from the grave. You're too late to insult Sigil. I'm about to go offline. Don't worry, though. I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully our resident zombie and grave shitter will get back into it for more mimetic pleasure. But I thank you to the nearly 6,000 people that tuned in live. I would go longer, but I can't. Thankfully, I don't have to really prepare dinner so much tonight because I got fucking lazy. I've been tired all day. I just got a microwavable pizza, and then I've got extra cheese and stuff for it. So that's about all. Peace out.